What about the tight end position, Samantha? You're talking about Kyle Pitts was on parole, got back, shoved into the slammer for bad behavior, whatever it was. Who are some tight ends out there that are, kind of on your radar? I know you talked about Tyler Conklin last week, and he's still out there in over half of leagues.
Yes. So I did like Tyler Conklin last week. The Jets really were frustrating in this game. I said on Convince Me that I thought that Zach Wilson was at best neutral for this passing game just because of how much Flacco had been throwing the ball. And I was like, that's not sustainable for the Jets. I don't think that that's how Wilson's going to operate. Now, and Garrett Wilson, as a result, was a complete dud in this game. So it was very frustrating. Tyler Conklin, I was encouraged by, because even though he didn't have his best game, now this was actually his worst game. He caught 3 of 5 targets for 52 yards. I mean, that's certainly not terrible.
For that being his worst game,
exactly.
If that's his low mark, that's not bad in this kind of wasteland of tight end.
Absolutely. I mean, like, Pitt's managers got 1 catch for 25 yards. So like, it's not a great landscape for tight end. That being said, I do like Conklin, that he's still getting the looks. We talked about it as him being a potential sort of security blanket. So I like him still moving forward. He's 42% rostered. So go pick him up if you are lean at tight end. Hayden Hurst, he looked pretty good on Thursday Night Football. I've been singing his praises for a while. I've just been high on him because he's a former first rounder that lost his job to Mark Andrews. Like, I think that he's still highly talented. He's got the Ravens on deck, who have been giving up a lot of points. I don't think last week was necessarily indicative, just because there was so much weather going on there, but the Ravens have definitely been exploitable against the pass, though Hurst could definitely be addable. Will Dissly, he just keeps scoring touchdowns, and I don't know if this is a sustainable thing, but he's found the end zone 3 times this season. It's 3% rostered. I mean, like, he's the tight end 7 for the week, tight end 9 for the season. Currently outscoring Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, Dawson Knox, Mike Gesicki, Darren Waller, Dalton Schultz, and Cole Kmet on a per game basis. Like, all those guys were actually drafted. This is a guy that's like way out there on the waivers in the deepest leagues right now. So you can definitely pick him up. I mean, he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's being very productive with them. He's caught all 12 of his targets this year for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. So with the Seahawks offense looking a little feistier than I thought they would, I mean, it's certainly possible that Dissly ends up being a top 12 tight end at the end of the season.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy. I think that's also kind of dovetails with what I was talking about with Geno Smith a little bit earlier on in the show. A couple of other tight ends. You've been talking about Hayden Hurst all season long. I've been talking about Robert Choppin' Tonyans in Green Bay all season long, and he caught a touchdown pass on Sunday as well. As you even begin to not have confidence in these guys on the outside on Green Bay, the one familiar target that Rodgers can trust, especially in the red zone, is Robert Tonyan. He got into the end zone. And then, of course, big shout out to our producer, David. I mean, he obviously knew to start Taysom Hill this week. As soon as he heard that it was Andy Dalton and no Kamara, I guarantee you that, top of the morning, the London game, he inserted Taysom Hill. And let me ask you, if there's no Kamara, if there's no Jameis, I mean, any game that the Red Rifle is starting for New Orleans, we're going to see some snaps of Taysom Hill. Are you back on the Taysom Hill train, Samantha?
Yeah, I mean, he is a little bit more than just a novelty, especially when Jameis is out. So if we have another perfect storm of that, where Jameis is out and Kamara misses the game, then he's definitely a viable tight end 1. He gets a little riskier if Kamara is back on the field, because he takes snaps out of the running back position. So he's out there in more than like 2/3 of leagues. So you can definitely grab him if you're lean at the position. There's just like a lot of guys. Like, there's like maybe a couple of guys that you trust. Like, Travis Kelce is looking like the best draft pick that you could have made all season. But after a certain, point, it's pretty lean. So it's basically, you got to go off of, do you like the offense? Do you like the opportunities, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. We've been talking about this for a while, that outside of the top tier at tight end, getting consistent targets, consistent receptions is very hard. I really think that outside, once you get past, like, say, tight end 6, they're almost touchdown dependent. And on any given week, if they get into the end zone, is anybody's guess.